response
Okay.
about why you want bullet floats.
Well, as I stated, excuse me, they're standardized buoys or floats. We can, the law enforcement people recognize that as a net. If they stay above the water, they float above the water. Some of the floats they have now are below the water. The lighter color they can see at night that we're recommending, as well as I mentioned that we could put some kind of signs up to the public at the ramp saying that these are buoys for legal commercial fishing gear. Commercial fishing is allowed in these waters. Do not destroy or tear up or anything like that. So,
What's a common float you use now? I mean, it's not distinguishable.
well, they have to be, I don't know, they have their, most of them have, I'm not sure. You
Mine's
say,
about
Rick.
the size of that paper, only about that thick. Yeah, that keeps them, when you roll them up, they don't fall off the ends. Plus, when they unroll, when it comes to depth of the water, if there's not a huge amount of current, it'll stay on. It won't keep unrolling. And we like square, and that's almost every commercial fisherman uses square. There's a few that's using too small a float, and I'll agree. And we should and we've already got one. It's probably a little small. We should go to 8x8 or 8x10 square. I'll agree with the commission. They need
Is
to
it
be
a problem to, go ahead.
or bigger.
I would agree to that, is maybe if we could all also, I don't know if there's any way to do this, but make sure it's a lighter color so it can be recognized and not a black or a dark color that can't be seen easily.
Could you take your existing ones that you like to wrap good, but spray them with something with fluorescent orange or something so people could see them?
Well, there is a little problem if everybody's orange, because you go down
Oh.
there at daylight, there's a fog on or what have you. If you've got 3 men fishing in the same area, you don't really want them all to be orange.
Well, I understand, but
Yeah.
obviously, we don't want to create a hardship if it's gonna cost y'all more work and more
Well,
expense.
If you put in the proclamation that it had to be a bright color that, no black or
Black.
gray or whatever color. Yeah.
They recommended a minimum size, we could go with that.
Yeah, 8x8 is what if it's 8x10, it wouldn't be a big deal. Most of us use that big or bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, the bullet floats are, if it's 100%, people just.
There
they know.
again, doesn't have anything to do with protecting the resource.
Right.
If it
I'm
makes it
just-
easier for y'all,
I'm just-
but we gotta have it
That's
where.
what I'm just telling you what the commercial.
Right, but I'm just saying, we gotta have it where the law enforcement can.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
I understand. I'm gonna try and hurry. Paddlefish size limit, they voted, right at 90% wanted to keep it at 36 inches. And he told why. There's gonna be so many throwed back, and we're gonna lose so many that it's gonna be, the fella that goes out there and he catches 2 and then he has to throw both of them back, it's gonna be hard for him.
Encourage more cheating?
Yes. Well, I would think it would. I
Well,
would think it would.
you probably shouldn't have said that, but.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's what this whole meeting's about.
Exactly.
But we've been told since 2002, by now we should be we should have been at 38 in 2005 or
2008.
8. So 6 years later, I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
so, that's the whole purpose of the meeting, is determine what we can do to protect the resource, but also make it to where you guys can still make a living.
Well, it goes back to where if you close 2 weeks of the season and the 38, how much more did you see on the paper there, how much more that we'll lose? Y'all all got that paper? I'd ask you to please consider that. I'm just about done.
Is that got it?
I'm just about done.
All right.
This is going to keep from being everybody.
I understand, and we appreciate
All
that.
right, because they wanted me to come.
I understand,
I'm
it
sure
gets
they'll be
going very
working
well,
on
and I
it.
appreciate it.
All right. I'm leaving off a lot, but this is I'm hitting the main things. Of course, the processing, I'm not even gonna go into that, other than you think it's just a buyer's problem, but it's not. because what's gonna happen when the commercial fisherman is not able to bring a good product to the market, and they're gonna send them home. That's what they're gonna do. And it'll be a waste. I don't think I'm exaggerating. There'll be times in the first part of the season and the latter part of the season when the water's a little warmer. Maybe not as bad in January, but most of the time, besides January, there's gonna be times that you might catch, say, 8 eggfish, and you're gonna get 4 of them back because of this. If we can't, I ain't gonna be able to do that. And you said, how are they doing it in other states? I went to another state, and I fished another state that you can't do it. I went 2 years. I went over there 2 years, and the first year I made less than $1,000 because of that not being able to do them on the river. And not only that, when I caught one that was weak, now we can cut that egg out, screen it, and save it. When you catch one in another state that's weak, you might as well throw it back. And well, if the fish is not really live, not fighting live. In other words, if the fish is been in the net 6, 7 hours, you can tell the difference. You know, he's either fighting. Those fighting fish, you might be all right for a couple hours, but that one there, you're gonna lose it every time, unless you take the eggs and screen it right then. You'll save them. And if I'm not able to do that, there'll be days I'm gonna lose half. I mean, it won't happen in January, but at most other times it will. And I believe most of them agree with me on that. Any questions on that? I don't think I'm going on. All right, there's just one more thing that we asked about the catfish. To be raised from 34 to 36 and able to keep one above 36 a day. And we asked y'all to consider that and talk about it. And I believe Mr. Cox said that you would put it to discussion.
Right,
All
yes,
right.
sir. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody bearing with me. This is something that they wanted me to do, and I needed to, and that would stop everybody wanting to come up. Any questions?
All right, we'll take care of it.
Yeah. Here's the floats we use.
Okay.
That's about the average float.
I can,
Put your name and your number on it.
I can see why that would be easier to wrap than a bullet float.
Yeah, that won't come undone.
Right, I can understand. Chief Wilson, can we have some open discussion then about the catfish?
Hold on. Chairman, can I kick in just a second? Anybody's commercial fishing wants to speak, you can speak. I mean, if you do, and I'm sorry, but I feel like there came a long way, and I think you'll have the opportunity to speak, every one of them. But I appreciate you too, Mr. Smith.
Well, I wasn't cutting them off. I was just wanting to, while catfish, and we can come back to anything else.
Okay.
I'm gonna suggest that because it's not proposed or on the table, that the paddlefish needs to be discussed. I
Okay.
don't think we need to go to catfish.
All right.
But eventually we do.
Yeah, we just don't want to forget it. Yes, sir.
My name's Dale Robertson, and 2 of those issues I wanted to talk about. Bobby's talking about mirroring Kentucky with their regulations on the paddlefish. They're at 38. I really don't have a problem with the 38. The season, they do close March 31st, but they can start harvesting paddlefish November 1st. They just got a net restriction. They can't use the 6-inch till the 15th.
Right.
They've got a couple weeks jump on us there. And, I just like you to consider that on that tail end of ours. And the head float deal, I know it don't seem like much of an issue, but it's the agency used to issue us tags, and now we have to write it on with a permanent marker, our name, number, and all that stuff. 2 weeks out in the sun, it's off. I mean, that's a $250 ticket if you get a You know, if it's not on there, it's supposed to be on there, but it won't stay on there. Every state around issues gear tags. I'd like to see us to reinstitute that.
How old is it?
1990, you can see it on there. I had one from 52, but I could not find it. And it was as legible as,
What's your comment on that, Chief Wilson?
I don't know. I know some of the states that issue gear tags charge for gear, specific gear. Each individual gear has a price for the tag. Not all states, I don't think, but some do.
ours was a nickel when we quit doing it. Some of them are as much as $15.
I'm not saying the cost of the tag.
Yeah.
There's a cost, if you use a Gillnet, you gotta pay.
Correct.
Right, it's more.
Yeah, $10 in some states, 15 in some states, but I'd really like to see that if we could.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Kelly?
Feel like I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I know y'all are tired and I'm tired and I'm gonna be real brief. I think I'll be more beneficial to be brief. First of all, the egg screening deal and the big controversy over the egg screening deal. I'm the one that sent for the email and he responded to me, and my recommendation for that would be that if you have a gentleman that you've been watching and you feel like he's mixed two fish, and you take his two fish and you find out that he has violated the law, I would recommend that part of his penalty be the $3,800. I would also recommend if he's innocent, the agency has to pay for it. Fire is fire. So I would ask you to pursue developing the test to check the road. To clarify this sheet of paper that I sent around, I know it was confusing with Ricky talking. He hadn't seen this. This was last year's purchase for one company, one buyer, me and my wife. This is not the whole state, but I think it kind of reflects the averages. So had we been on this was what I bought last year on November 15 to April 15. Had we been on the proposed season last year, the first week of the season, first of all, the total was 643. That was Kentucky Lake, Barkley Lake, Chickamauga Lake combined. All right. Had we had been on a starting date of November 21, I would not have received 117 of those fish. Had we been on a 38-inch fish the rest of the year, I would have not received 63 of those fish. And then 17 of those fish would have been after the 7th to the 15th. So if last year had have been the proposal, November 21, April 7, my purchase would have been $446. So that would have been a 31% reduction. My first comment on that, and probably my last comment, is to come in here today and to have a different proposal than what we've been working on since August is not even legal. We worked on the proposal. So that shouldn't even be in the question today. The other thing that I would say, and believe it or not, I'm almost through, and that is a comment that Ms. Woodson made in Jackson that I think is the answer to the biggest part of the problems. Ms. Woodson stated the mission statement in Jackson, and I'd like to briefly go over that. The mission statement of TWRA is to preserve, conserve, manage, protect, and enhance the fish and wildlife for all citizens of Tennessee. My wife and I pay $2,400 a year for license to do this business, and we are citizens of Tennessee. The agency will foster the safe use of the state's waters. Big portion of the state's waters is off limits. So my recommendation, if it's such a disaster where we're fishing, then let's rotate the water, because the mission statement calls for that. And it also says through a program of law enforcement, education, and access. We've been denied access. So if we've got such a bad deal going on in these fishing places, let's rotate it and let's go with a mission statement. The other thing that I would say is this. We went to the legislature for help through all this process, and they formed the advisory board, and also they made a law to enhance commercial fishing laws to help it be a viable business. So, believe it or not, I'm through. Do the DNA test, go with a mission statement, and take a look at what our losses would be if you don't replace it somehow.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak about commercial fishing? Either one.
I'm James Smith from Camden, Tennessee. I'm a commercial fisherman. I'm also one of those fishermen they talk about that has another job. I'm a Baptist pastor, and I'm bivocational. I do this to supplement my income in that way. There's several things that I would want to mention, but one of the things I'm going to restrict myself to is that they talked about when watching these fishermen go over in the shallow water or over away from their nets, you know, to take their eggs out and do all this stuff as if they were doing something illegal. The reason we do that is because we want to get away from our nets. We don't want to drop our, we don't want to throw back the refuge into the place where we're fishing at. We go in the shallow water and we take the eggs out and we cut the head off. And throw away the guts back in the shallow water or away from our nets, so that, because I have caught stuff in my nets from heads. I've caught heads and I've caught guts and stuff in my nets that have, you know, just flowed down. And when they get in that water, they'll flow. And that's one of the reasons that we do that. And that's really all I wanted to say. And one of the other things is that what I use as a float is a Purex jug. I just take the stuff off of it and write my name on it. And as Dale says, they will, you know, the permanent marker will not be permanent on the water. It'll wear out after a while. And you just have to replace the jugs. You know, you have to do what you got to do. Those two things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fine?
Mr. Chairman, before Ms. Fine comes up, Mr. Kelly made a comment that it wasn't legal. Our legal counsel's in the room. I'd like to ask that question. Is it illegal that something else was presented than what was in the last meeting?
No, there's nothing in the law that requires that 30 days. We do that traditionally, but there's nothing that requires it legally. And that's the purpose of these meetings. I mean, we do have a meeting a month ahead of time and to reveal what we're going to propose. And if it changes, of course, they need to have time to respond to it. But that 30-day thing is not in the law anywhere. We've just traditionally done it.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Fine?
My name's Alan Fine. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And if I could, I'd like to see that water temperature chart again, please.
May take me a minute. It's Mississippi River. I don't have it 90 slides. That one?
When was that last temperature taken?
Oh, that's probably been 10 years ago.
Yeah. In the information that we forwarded y'all, we took and called TVA and got water temperatures from Kentucky Dam for the last 2 seasons. And that water temperature has been below 58 degrees. So my question is, why are we considering shortening the season in April 2 weeks when, years and years ago, it may have been too warm, but now it's not, based on the 58-degree number. And I know Mr. Bledsoe being a farmer and all, the Farmer's Almanac calls for a colder than normal, more snow, more everything this season. Yeah. So my question is, why are we considering taking 2 weeks off of April when, if you're looking at the water temperatures, they're below 58 degrees?
Well, I guess the dispute is the temperature of the water. It's not why we're doing it.
Well,
It's
that's,
just a dispute of the temperature, correct?
it's the temperature, it is the temperature of the water. But it's,
Right.
over an average, it varies year to year to year. But the average, we have to go by the average. We can't go by just from one year to the next.
I guess that being 9 years old, and, you look at the weather patterns, I call that National Weather Data Center. The trend is cooling. We're in a cooling phase. So if the temperature is below your 58-degree number and you're in a cooling phase and it's steady going to get cooler, why would we take those 2 weeks off? My next comment would be, if you just feel that you have to take time off, we'd much more prefer it come from November. And I'll give you a better example of all. The harvest is always going to be up whatever day it is we go. If the water's running on the 15th or the 21st, it really doesn't matter. If we can't go, we can't go. It's like opening day on ducks or doves or anything. Those fish, they're not used to anybody being out there, and they're not retarded. Once them nets start hitting the water, they lay down, or they go where we don't go. So if you move the season up from the beginning, it hurts us less than if you take April away. And even in April, and I think the year that had the lower harvest on fish, I quit buying a week before the season even ended because the water got warm and those eggs get soft. And if your product's no good, you can't sell it, and there's no reason to kill those fish. And if I could like see one more graph of Kentucky Lake with a 92% decrease.
Hang on.
What's the one on Kentucky Lake? Yeah, there we go. I made mention, and I still pretty much stand by it, that 91 decrease in harvest is matched by a 90 to 91% decrease in effort. So if nobody's fishing Kentucky Lake, then the harvest is going to decrease. And I want to point that out here. There's only from 80 plus permits down to 53. You've already decreased effort, which would decrease harvest, which is the goal of a limited entry system. But when those 53 are fishing somewhere else, and you get harvest reports, and they mention that you really couldn't tell on the days that you didn't catch. So you're thinking, well, if you're not catching anything, you may be fishing and you can't tell. But you're getting harvest reports from those other 50 fishermen that are fishing other water bodies. So they're fishing, they're harvesting fish, and they're not on Kentucky Lake.
You see a graph, though, that showed how much poundage was decreasing of eggs that were being brought in or sold?
Again, if you've cut your
Statewide.
effort, by 90%, I was there in 2006, 2007. I fished there. I haven't been there since.
We have poundage showing with the eggs that were sold that's been decreasing across the state. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just saying, would that not be a better measure or barometer of what's going on?
That's kind of what that is.
Well, that one's Kentucky Lake right there. But the other thing is, you got to remember, there are 80 plus people fishing. And even under that limited entry, you're down to 53 permit holders, and I don't know how many out of the 53 actually turned in, harvest reports. Used to, everybody have a permit, not even turn them in. So you have fewer people. And I think Mr. Baker was trying to ask that earlier about the number of fishermen or the effort or whatever to bring it down. But I just think that matches, and I wanted to point that out.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
According to Mr. Kelly's numbers here, he's harvested 643 fish, what he give us here. He says between November the 15th and November the 21st, he harvested 117. Well, my East Tennessee math, that's about 18.1% of his catch came in that first week. Whereas only 17 fish were harvested after April the 7th, and that's a 2.6%. So you were saying that November didn't.
Do you have that piece of paper that I sent you, or a copy? No, that's Mr. Kelly's. I sent you mine, in that email of what I bought. And I believe if you ask, and as soon as I sat down, I asked Mr. Kelly what he thinks. But again, if you feel like you need to take time off the season, we'd much prefer the 2 weeks to come from the first, or start the season on the, I guess, November the 31st at noon, where we could put out and start pulling December the 1st, than to do anything on the other end. Like I say, if the water gets too hot, buyers quit buying, fishermen quit fishing. What happened to us last year, especially in East Tennessee, because the water's even cooler, the further east you go. And when you're on Chickamauga Lake or Nickajack Lake down, those fish didn't start to move till after April the 7th. We caught more fish per day from the 7th to the 5th, well, the 14th. It stormed on the 15th and nobody went. And not to have that opportunity, just like Mr. Scott was saying, when those fish do move, when they finally decide to go, if you end that season and we don't even get a shot at that, that's just critical to us.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, thank you. What do we,
I would like to respond to Mr. Baker. If you
Yes, sir.
look back at my sheet there, one thing you need to understand is fishing's not the same all the time on one lake as it is another. Look at the top of my sheet in its second paragraph. These numbers do not include purchases from the Mississippi River. And the reason I didn't include them is because Mississippi River is not in the discussion today, okay? So I had crews of fishermen that were fishing in April on the Mississippi River, and I didn't have a lot of effort on Kentucky Lake. I bought more fish from the 7th to the 15th, but not off Kentucky Lake. Does that help clear it up any?
Yeah, but you also say that you harvested 117 from November the 15th through the 21st.
That's true.
Would you think if you were November 21st to November 30th, do you think you still would have had that same amount? You would rather have something shorter on the front and longer on the end, as Mr. Fine was?
Again, last time at Jackson, I got chastised that I'm not representing all the fishermen, and we did the survey. So now you're back to asking me, and here's my theory on that. Yes, if Mike Kelly's got to lose something, I prefer to lose the first week in November, because I get a sporting chance to catch him the second week.
the week to me doesn't really matter, because everybody's gonna go out there and be hammering at it hard anyway. So your first week's gonna be about the same regardless of when you start it. It's, what they're saying is the last week is what they want. Do you have something to add, sir? We're,
One is that I, as a commercial fisherman, I really don't need anything taken off, because there's so much time in the middle that you can't do anything. I mean, in the last few years, it's been such floods come through that you couldn't even fish. And when the water gets cold, the fish don't move. So we can't catch anything hardly in January, February. We can't hardly catch anything. Another thing is the point about the designated ramps. And I don't know whether that's still on the table or not, but
It's not.
designate, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to, we're going to continue this discussion, but I'm going to move the budget things to tomorrow. So Director Carter, if there's anybody in the room that's here, budget only, if they want to go, with your permission, they can, because we are not going to do budget, except for Chairman of the Budget Committee, Mr. Cannon.
Freddie, you better get out of the way. They're gonna run over you.
But we are moving budget tomorrow. Mr. Chairman, back to you.